Okay. All right, so we're doing this one standing today just because we've got some additional energy and, it's always good to get physique shots, track the progress. We are 6 weeks out of the next bodybuilding show in the Caribbeans, the Bahamas, so to speak. I was doing, let me see. Yeah, we look fairly good for 6 weeks out. I feel positive. I feel positive about the whole thing. I was talking to my co-star of this documentary that I'm working on, The Rise of Natural Bodybuilding, tentatively titled The Naturals. But I was talking to Valley Muscle. He's stoked. He's going with the intention of getting his pro card and becoming an IFBB pro. I'm competing in men's physique division, which is the board shorts. I've been working with a highly rated posing coach. So I'll show you what I'm working with right now. So that's the men's physique pose. And then it's like, yeah, that whole stuff. Got a couple more pounds to lose prior to the show. Like I said, we're 6 weeks out. And all in all, things should go well. That being said, I've been paying attention to the types of winners of these men's physique competitions, the board shorts, and I definitely noticed that there seems to be a bit more of a bubbliness to the muscles, to the muscle bellies that these judges seem to be prioritizing. So there is, I'm not going to use the word concern, but more so an observation that I have noticed when competing against enhanced athletes, the ability to maintain such fullness in the muscles, I feel like that that might be the deciding factor between whether or not I actually win the overall competition or not. I can definitely come in lean, I can come in shredded, and I can come in with good shape, but it's the fullness, it's the bubbliness that I am concerned that I'm not actually going to match up to so far as the judges' standards. But with that being said, I can still focus on doing what's within my ability, which is to continue to perfect the posing. And, the way I look at it is this documentary project is intended to be a couple years, And we're reverse engineering. So the documentary is supposed to start the same way that it ends, which is myself and Valley Muscle both being IFBB pros, sharing a stage together in the classic physique division, which means I'm out of the men's physique board shorts. And yeah, we just have to work back from that. The goal is to display who is the greatest natural bodybuilder of all time. That's the story that we have to tell. We follow our journey through the ranks and becoming the faces of the natural bodybuilding movement. So I don't have to get my pro card this year. Sure, there's a possibility that I do. There is a possibility that I do. But like I said, it's about the bubbliness. I don't know if I can match the steroid users. So the good news is that they do have pro qualifiers for natural competitions. So if I don't get my pro card at this show competing against enhanced athletes, then I can always come back next year and go to a natural show and compete to get my pro card there. Which may end up being what happens. Ben Weider's Naturals is the show that I was actually most, that was on my list to compete at this year. That is NPC slash IFBB's flagship competition for naturals. They want that to be the big deal comparative to Mr. Olympia, where Ronnie Coleman, Chris Bumstead, all the great bodybuilders competed at Mr. Olympia. They want Ben Weider's naturals to be that for natural bodybuilding. So to me, it just made sense to compete there as an amateur and get my pro card there. But, I was outvoted by my co-star slash training partner and my coach, who's also sponsoring the event in the Bahamas, which is where we'll be going on November 9th. If I had my druthers, I would have done both. I would have gone to the show in the Bahamas, and then Ben Weider's is like a week or two after that in Virginia, I think on like November 17th. But I just can't take off consecutively for my job, and I have to prioritize that being my only source of income right now. So I have to respect those responsibilities, obligations. So if I don't get my pro card this year, then it'll be just honestly nothing much changes whether I get my pro card in the Bahamas or not. It's still the same forecast of 8 months of bulking until I step on stage again at Ben Weider's. The only difference would be if I'm stepping on stage at Ben Weider's in 2025 as an amateur, or if I'm stepping on stage as a pro bodybuilder. Those are the big differences. Either way, I'm still competing in men's physique, which is not the division that I want to end my career in. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That is pretty much it. I was thinking earlier while I was doing the dishes, I remember this monologue from Hamlet that I have, I think, 3 monologues that I are memorized from that play, at least 3, if not 4. You got To Be or Not to Be. You got, oh my gosh, now I'm drawing a blank. Oh my God, Now I Am Alone. Oh, what a pale sullen vessel am I. Is it not monstrous that this player here, but for a fiction, for a dream of passion, could so contort his soul, so to the blank of passions? Wow, this is crazy. I used to have these down pat. I could go a year or two without ever reciting it, and I would still, that from her working all his visage wanes, tears in his eyes, distraction in his aspect, a broken voice and his whole function suiting with forms to his conceit, and all for nothing. For Hecuba? What's Hecuba to him, or he to Hecuba, that he should weep for her? What would he do had he the motive and the cue for passion that I have? Why, he would drown the stage with tears, and cleave the general ear with horrid speech, make mad the guilty, and confound the ignorant, appall the ignorant, and amaze indeed the very faculties of eyes and ears. Yet I, a dull and muddy meddled rascal, peak like John a dreams, unpregnant of my cause, and can say nothing, no, not for a king upon whose property damned feat was made. Am I a coward? Who calls me villain? Breaks my pate across, tweaks me by the nose, gives me the line to throat as deep as to the lungs. Who does me this, huh? Swoons I should take it, for it cannot be but I am pigeon-livered, and lack gall to make oppression bitter, or ere this I should have fatted all the regent kites with the slaves. Awful, bloody, body villain, remorseless, treacherous, lecherous, kindless villain, oh, vengeance! Why, this is most brave, that I, the son of a dear father murdered, prompted by my revenge by heaven and hell, must like a whore unpack my heart with words, and fall a-cursing a very drab, a scullion, fie on it, ah, fie. About my brain, I have heard that guilty creatures sitting at a play have by the very cunning of the scene been struck soul to the soul, that presently they will confess their malefactions for evil, though it have no tongue, may speak with most miraculous organ. I'll have these players play something like the flirt of my father before mine uncle. I'll observe his looks, I'll tend him to the quick. If he do but blench, I'll know my cause. The devil I have may seen, the spirit I have seen may be the devil, yea, and perhaps out of my weakness and my melancholy, as the devil is very potent with such spirits, abuses me to damn me. I'll have grounds more relative than this. The play's the thing, wherein I'll catch the conscience of the king. Yeah. That was like 80%. 70% good. Yeah, I was doing the dishes. I was thinking about how, I don't know, 12 years ago, that was like my big dream. 12 years ago, my big dream was to do Hamlet on a really big stage in front of a big audience and just have the opportunity to just kill that performance. And the only question I asked myself was like how I would not overact it, because it occurred to me today that, for one, that dream didn't come true because now I'm age 33, and though I don't look 33, I look more like, I don't know, 25, 26. As I continue to age and I'm not pursuing acting specifically, the likelihood of me falling into an opportunity to play Hamlet in an appropriate age range is dwindling. If I were to stay this course and follow the trajectory of becoming the greatest natural bodybuilder of all time, I don't see myself having as much power or influence in order to create that opportunity for myself unless I'm actively pursuing it until, I don't know, 4 or 5 years from now. And like I said, it could be the case that, by the time I'm age 40, I could still pull it off and it would be believable. Sure, it could happen. It could happen. It could happen. But one thing I did come to terms with just now, doing the dishes, like I said, is that it's always been a performance that's always been so important to me. I've always wanted to deliver a profound, moving, captivating, compelling performance to an audience. And when it comes to Hamlet, I think the reason I was so invested in playing that role is because, for one, the ability to compete against other actors, since that really is the most coveted role so far as Shakespeare is concerned. So any actor who thinks they're worth anything, a grain of salt, they do Hamlet to like show off their acting chops. So me having this competitive drive to be the best at the thing that I'm endeavoring to pursue, at the time, 12, 13 years ago, it was acting. I wanted to be the best actor. So I look at Hamlet, okay, this is the role that everyone gets to do and show off how great they are as an actor, emote and drown the stage with tears. So that was the role because everyone else was doing it. Side note, I made a joke not too long ago about how Hamlet is pretty much the only cowardly character that is cool or is considered cool. Like, you don't really think of Hamlet with a negative connotation, even though his actions and behaviors display that of a coward. So I think that's kind of interesting. Name another coward that is like held in high regard. And I'm not saying Hamlet is, but people want to play him. Who else is trying to play Hamlet? I mean, who else is trying to play a coward? Which is interesting, in my opinion. But, when it comes to Shakespeare, the villains have always been more interesting than the actual heroes. Not saying that Hamlet is either. He's definitely the protagonist. Again, I digress. Hopping back on track. The desire to perform and to wow an audience with a performance has been there for as long as I can remember. And I understand now, after so many years of not thinking about Hamlet, that the dream wasn't necessarily to play that specific character, but to express that desire to deliver a captivating performance to an audience and to compete in that field of delivering a compelling performance. So now it's natural bodybuilding, and I admit to myself that that's not enough. It's not big enough. I can peak my physique to the level of greatest of all time. I really can. It's going to take a couple years. I'm going to have to put on some additional size, especially in the legs, but I can see myself competing for the title of greatest of all time when it comes to natural bodybuilding. That won't be enough for me so far as delivering a compelling performance. And so I made up this bigger aspiration. We need something bigger. Apex of all alphas, moving through the world like the leader of the world, bringing about a movement that is beyond health and wellness, but is more in tune with the next step in human evolution. That's the character that, to me, for one, I can play, as daunting as a task as it might sound. I believe that I can play that character and I can inhabit that role. And so once the thought entered my mind 10 years ago, well, I had to do it. I had to play this role. Because anything less would be less than the greatest performance that I can give to a role that I don't think anyone else can play effectively. And sure, yeah, there might be other people who could do exactly what it is that I'm doing. There probably are. But would they do it the same way? Definitely not. So I get to introduce my own style, my own personality, my own unique charm to this character. In the same way that Keanu Reeves performed Neo, Will Smith was originally considered for that role, and he would have done it very differently. So I guess it's the same situation. I think about one of my favorite films is The Prestige, directed by Christopher Nolan, starring Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale. And I always resonated, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the film, great film, but I always resonated with the end, how the ends justified the means for Hugh Jackman's character. He was essentially murdering himself 100 times for the sake of delivering this great performance and wowing an audience with this ability, with this trick, his final trick, the transporting man. And I remember that monologue after Christian Bale shoots him and he's dying and he's like just having that recollection of his past experiences, and he says, the looks on their faces, that's what made it worth it. Seeing the looks on the audience face. And that was the thing that resonated with me for that film. Even as I was watching, I didn't know that aspect of it is what drew me to it. But I understand now that I am driven to wow an audience. The biggest audience possible. I want the world to be my stage. And I can handle an audience of 7 or 8 billion people. I can handle it. Whether or not we get there, that remains to be seen. But shoot for the stars, land up in the moon. We've all heard that expression before. So you can't really worry too much about how successful success looks. You just got to keep walking. I think that might be it, honestly. Yeah. Let's see. Let's get some more posing in. 6 weeks out. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. If we want to talk about legitimate concerns for this whole brand thing, greatest of all time. I'm worried about the legs. I'm a bit worried about the legs. I don't know. Uh, I can't focus too much about it. All I can do is train with intensity, do everything that's within my power. I wish I didn't know I was going to be a bodybuilder 10 years ago. Had I known, I would have been training legs, but instead I was an asshole and only worked the upper body. And this is what you get. These are the results of my actions. So, for anyone listening out there, I'm age 33 and I skipped leg day for 10 fucking years. Don't do it. If you're going to work out the entire body. It just makes sense. Saying it out loud, I just don't even know how that didn't click when I was a teenager. I just don't know. I have my head up my ass. It's really that simple. I definitely have my head up my ass. But now I have to be realistic and honest with myself and understand that I probably won't have my peak physique until age 40, which is 7 years from now. 7 years before I actually have a proportional physique. Which, not the end of the world. Not the end of the world. I was just showing my roommate. There's this one bodybuilding federation that only do natural competitions. And they had one of the bigger shows this past weekend. It's called the OCB Yorton Cup. It's like their biggest federation's competition or show. They do it once a year. And the guy who came in second at OCB's biggest competition annually, the guy who came in second was 66. So that's very promising, which is to suggest that, let's say it does take me 7 years to peak my physique and bring everything into proportion, do everything right, like dialed in. We got the muscle mass, we got the size, we got the shape, we got the conditioning, yada, 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 and everything looks great. Let's say I get there at age 40, 7 years from now. In theory, I would still have another 10 years of competing if I wanted to, another 20 years of competing if I wanted to. Obviously, we have much bigger aspirations than just competing for 20 or 30 years as a bodybuilder. Much, much bigger aspirations, but we have that option. And as long as we solidify the brand of greatest of all time, it doesn't matter how long it takes, because the journey is what matters. The destination is written in stone. You just got to get the job done. The job has got to get done. Otherwise, all of this, well, it's just fugazi. It's just bullshit, So, whenever I do cardio, that's what's on my head. Get the job done. Whenever I train, get the fucking job done. Become the greatest of all time. And it's not enough to just say it. It's not enough when a person says, "Oh, you're the greatest of all time." No, I've got to do it. I've got to do it. I've got to do it. So, I'm satisfied. See you on the next one.